Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the
Morning.
service this morning. Oh, this is a song called True Calling. When you hear a voice no one else can hear, but it's clear and loud, ringing in your ear, and you finally know what it's time to do. That's your true calling, calling you. That's your true calling, calling you. Your heart's wide open cause your mind's been changed, and the dreams you dream are not the same, and you finally know what it's time to do. That's your true calling, calling you. That's your true calling, calling you. You ask yourself, is this a voice I can trust? You think you can't, but you know that you must. You're afraid you'll fall if you let go, but there's only one way you'll ever know. Those wings you keep folded are meant to be used. That's your true calling, calling you. That's your true calling, calling you. Ask yourself, am I asking too much? You think you can't, but you know that you must. Just trust. When your heart's wide open cause your mind's been changed, and the dreams you dreamed are not the same. There's a gate wide open you can walk right through. That's your true calling, calling you. That's your true calling, calling you. That's your true calling, calling you. Your true calling, calling you.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Unity of White Rock Online. Please silence your cell phone and your landline if you can, so we're not interrupted. We may not be physically hugging you, but we are here beside you, sharing love, inspiration, and comfort in these challenging times. My name is Pixie, and I'm delighted that you are here online with us today. Despite the fearful footage we are seeing on the news, we know the truth for ourselves and for all humankind. There is one presence and one power active in the universe and in our lives, God, the good, omnipotent. Wherever we are, God is. And this means that what's going on all around us is in divine order. Is Spirit giving us an opportunity to experience our oneness by staying closely connected heart to heart without being physically close to each other? Like a mother eagle pushing her fledglings out of their nest, perhaps the Creator is compelling us to slow down, to reconsider where we are heading, and to reset our course so that we become more focused on collaboration and cooperation rather than on competition. And to go inward and reconnect with our inner wisdom keeper, that still small voice within. Let us begin our service in prayer. We are grateful to be together today in our community of joy, to sing together, to laugh together, and mostly to be inspired and to grow in spiritual consciousness. Many names and paths lead to the one presence and one power we call God. That power is the creating, attracting, and unifying force of love that lies within us, expresses through us, and is all around us. In this power, we are one, and from this oneness, we send a blessing of unconditional love, peace, and abundant joy to all beings everywhere. We are so grateful, and so it is. Unity of White Rock, as you know, is part of the worldwide unity movement, and we all share a common vision. And this is it. Our vision is a world powerfully transformed through the growing movement of shared spiritual awakening. And our mission for this month, and I have to say at Unity of White Rock, we're trying on a number of missions statements to see which one feels the best, just sort of the way women do when we try on dresses for a wedding. And we're in the process of choosing one, and this is the one we're experimenting with for the month of March. Our mission is to be a loving, inclusive community, co-creating with spirit to transform lives. This morning, Rosie will read our daily word.
Good morning, everyone. I'm so glad you're all with us today. Today's daily word is inner peace. I find the peace of God in the silence within me. The Hebrew scripture tells the story of the word of the Lord commanding the prophet Elisha to stand on the mountain before the Lord. For the Lord is about to pass by. As he waits, Elisha fails to find God as he endures a wind strong enough to split mountains, an earthquake, and then a fire. Then Elisha discovers God in the sound of sheer silence. Sometimes chaos surrounds me as I try to find the peace of God. Other times, the chaos may be inside me. I persist in my effort as I confront inner storms, fires, and earthquakes as I search for peace. Like Elisha, I remain steadfast in faith, undisturbed by what is happening around me, and I wait for distractions to pass. Peace is mine. After the earthquake, a fire, but the Lord was not in the fire. And after the fire, a sound of sheer silence. That is from Kings 1, 19-12.
Thank you, Rosie. Today is the 5th Sunday in the Lenten season, during which we have been fasting from negative thoughts and feasting on life-affirming ideas and creativity. Desiree will now read the special message for today, the allness of life.
Good morning, everyone. This is written by Reverend Eric Butterworth, who was a renowned Unity writer. The allness of life. The key to understanding prayer is allness. I use it interchangeably with the word God. So often when we use the word God, we think out, we think up, we think something separate. As long as we think something separate, we've created a separation that exists only within us and otherwise does not exist. Prayer can only be effective when we think oneness. So instead of thinking God, I think allness. Allness means totality. It's not out there somewhere. It's the whole of things. All life is present. If there's allness, The whole is present, all life is present, and all wisdom is present, all substance is present, all guidance is present, all love is present. We live and move and have our being in this allness, which is present, not absent. Prayer is not trying to get more life, to get more love from God, but instead to know our oneness. The psalmist sang, "Be still and know that I am God." Trying to get more is to be still and know that I am the activity of life, all life, expressing at the point.
Thank you, Desiree. This morning, we are blessed to have Nathen Aswell as our guest speaker and our guest musician. Nathen will now lead us into meditation with his celestial music. His talk will follow.
Love is my decision, and the words, as you can see, are on the PowerPoint there. Love is my decision. It's up to me to give of my heart. Love is my decision. No one else can tell me to start. And once I decide to change my mind, God will show me how. Love is my decision right here and now. Love is my decision. It's up to me to stand on that bridge. Love is my decision, and no one else can make me forgive. And once I decide to change my mind, God will show me how. Love is my decision right here and now. Love is my decision. It's up to me to dance down that road. Love is my decision. No one else can lighten my load. And once I decide to change my mind, God will show me how. Love is my decision right here and now. Love is my decision, last line again. Love is my decision right here and now. So I invite you all now to take a deep breath. And as you exhale, I want you to feel your feet. Feel your connection to the floor beneath you and to all the other people who are a part of this experience this morning, wherever they may be. And that connection is as sure and as true as your connection to the earth underneath your feet. And as you continue to slowly breathe in and out and feel that connection, I invite you to ponder this question. What if I were to decide to be a living, loving expression of God today? What if I were to decide to fully do that? What if I were to decide to be an expression of the allness, which is God? There is no other but God. What if I decided to fully embody inner peace, to be a full expression of that inner peace? Gently keep breathing in and out, pondering those questions, feeling the floor beneath your feet, feeling the heart connection between all of us wherever we are. And in the next minute or so, let's just enjoy some complete silence and listen into the stillness for whatever surfaces. Love is my decision, right here and now. Good morning, everyone. Oh, I have a lot to share with you this morning, and it will be, I'm accepting the challenge to share my message and not rush through it. I have a lot to say, and I have about 20 minutes to say it. So I will trust that it will all unfold with ease and grace, and that I will say exactly what needs to be said for the greatest good of all. This morning, I want to talk about 3 important decisions I've made. This morning's talk is all about decision, the power of decision. So the first decision I want to talk about is deciding to walk the Camino. The Camino is, for those of you who don't know, there are several Camino routes, but the one that most people are aware of is the one that was exemplified so beautifully in the image that you see on your screen right now, The Way, starring Martin Sheen. For those of you who haven't seen the movie, it's a story of a son who actually dies on the very first day of wanting to walk this Camino, the French Camino, which begins just inside the French border and goes all the way to Camino Santiago, which is about 750 kilometers away from that beginning point. Martin Sheen, who plays the father of the character who passes away, decides to walk the Camino in his son's memory and has a spiritual awakening in the process. Like most people who have walked the Camino, I was inspired by this. Most North Americans, this is the way that we learn about the Camino, is this movie. And so I was very inspired by the movie, and I thought, yeah, perhaps. And of course, like most of us, it got put in my infamous bucket list. I didn't see it as happening, but I thought perhaps one day. And then I had an experience at my mom's place last April. Next slide, please, Angelica. I was visiting my mom, and I discovered when I visited my mom the last couple of times in the last year that she loves to watch movies. And so every time we would get together, we would watch movies from her DVD or VHS collection. And we decided to watch this movie one particular night. I'd seen it when it first came out in the theater. For those of you who don't know what it's about, Tom Hanks plays a man who, a FedEx executive who gets left on a deserted island for 4 years and completely transforms himself and comes back to his life eventually after 4 years, only to discover that everyone has moved on, and most especially his wife, who has not only remarried another man, but has had a son with that other man. And there was something about seeing the movie which just hit me in a very deep place, reminded me of the truth that all of us know, that the only true moment we have is now, the present moment. And I thought, well, if I am going to walk this Camino, it better be now. So I made that big decision. I said, yes, I am going to walk this Camino, and I will start it on my 60th birthday, which was last September 7th. Next slide, please, Angelica. So every big decision is a series of small decisions, many, many, many small decisions. And like other people who have contemplated a big trip, there were many, many things for me to consider. So one of the things that happened was my friends that are near and dear to me said, well, you're not going to walk the Camino without an instrument, are you? And I hummed and hawed about that. And eventually I found this beautiful little instrument. It's called a guitarlele. It's the same size as a ukulele, but it has the same number of strings and tuning as a guitar. So that solved my music problem. I was very happy to bring that with me, and it became a big part of my experience, as you'll see as we go a little further on. Next slide, please. This is the very first hostel, or albergue as they're called, that I stayed in. This was the only one that I stayed in France. So this is in Saint-Jean-Pied-de-Port, which translates as St. John at the foot of the bridge. And so my very first fear, I had many, many fears. My very first fear was the message I got from the owner of this albergue was the front, we are closed at 9 p.m. And my train only got in at 10 p.m. And so I sent a few messages hoping that the person would be flexible. And she did acknowledge that she would wait for me. And so when I got off the train, it was about a 10-minute walk from the train station to this albergue. And so it was late at night, and I thought, okay, this is easy. I know where I'm going. And much to my surprise and delight, as I got off the train, I heard the woman who ran this albergue calling my name. She had come to greet me at the train station in her car, and she drove me to the albergue. And it was just a sign of everything that was to come and everything that I'm about to share with you, that once, as the famous quote says, which I'll say later, everything does flow once we make the decision. So one of the next things that I was concerned about was direction. Will I be able to get through the Camino and know where I'm going? Well, as you'll see, Angelica, you can just flip through these things about 3 seconds at a time. Here are all the variations of the kinds of signs that you see all the way along the Camino. It's an extremely well-marked path, as you can see. Yellow signs, things in the pavement, arrows made out of stones. It was virtually impossible to get lost on the Camino. These kinds of signs were available even at night. They would glow in the dark. This is a huge roundabout in a square in a small town. So as you can see, just virtually impossible to get lost. I love that one. For those who don't trust the arrow, let's actually put the word too. Another one written in the pavement. That's an actual shell in the pavement. This one, as I said, I would often start my day at 6 a.m. So this would be reflected in my headlamp. So very easy to know where I was going. I love this one. That's one of my favorites. Pretty elaborate. And these you see all the way along. Where it says a Fistera, they actually give the amount of kilometers remaining before you get to Santiago. So you get these little signs of encouragement all the way, not only to tell you which direction, but also how much further you have to go, which is very sweet. So before I talk about this slide, there were a handful of times where I did get lost, and angels appeared at exactly the right time. I would be walking at 6 o'clock in the morning. A man walking his dog would appear, and if it hadn't been for that particular man walking the dog, I could have gone for hours in the wrong direction. There was kind of the road sort of branched off in another direction, and he appeared just at the right time to point me to the exact place that I should cross the road. That happened to me about 4 or 5 times. So I felt completely loved and supported and guided every single step of the way. Next slide, please, Angelica. So the next thing is people, concerned about, what will it be like for me to be traveling on my own? Here's a perfect example of the kinds of experiences I started to have. Going around the table from left to right, Brett is from Australia, Beth is from New Zealand, Loriano at the end of the table is from Spain, Shai is from Israel, and Tukaya is from Japan. This is the kind of quality of the international flavor that was part of every day of my trip, and very, very deep, lasting friendships are made. And I'm in touch with all these people still, which is a lovely thing. Next slide, please. So next concern, what am I going to do about food? What will food be like? Well, as was shown in the last slide, I ended up having wonderful shared meals with people. This was one of the best nights on the Camino food-wise. It was at an albergue in the middle of nowhere. And not only was dinner fantastic, but in the morning, one of the staff men made homemade churros. I don't know if any of you have had churros. It's a Spanish delicacy. And anyway, I ate like a king all the way along on the Camino. Just absolutely wonderful. And being the Virgo practical guy that I am, there were also plenty of supermarkets where I could get whatever I wanted all the way along. So again, one more fear completely dissolved and erased. And this man, I cried when I met this man. I don't know why. I guess I was feeling particularly hungry and low on energy. And you'll find angels like this all the way along the Camino. At exactly that moment where you're feeling the lowest, there'll be a guy like this with a wonderful smile. And as you can see, all kinds of wonderful things to offer. I don't know if you can see, there's a little sign there that says donation. So he's just there in loving service to anybody who's walking by. And there were bathrooms just inside that doorway. So you could take a little break, get some fuel, feel the energy of this guy and walk on. Again, one more example of how the Camino provides. This is a beautiful story. Most of the places that I stayed in were albergues, hostels where, several bunk beds in one room. I got to this particular town at the end of a very, very long day. This is at the top of a long day of climbing, and I got there and I couldn't find the albergue I was looking for, and I just happened to pass by two women who were speaking in English to each other, and I said, "Can you tell me where the albergue is?" And one of them, whose name is Connie, said to me, "Well, actually, I've pre-booked 2 rooms in this town and I don't need one. Please have it." And she absolutely refused to take money from me. This is the building that I stayed in that evening. This is me looking across the road at the front door, and Angelica, the next slide, is my view from that front door. So these are the kinds of experiences that I was gifted with. The Camino, there's the big expression on the Camino is the Camino provides. It absolutely did every single step of the way. Next slide, please. And on top of well, again, I guess now it just gets into gifts extraordinaire. This is a Korean man. He's an acupuncturist. And on the bag he has on his lap in several different languages are the message, I want to be of loving, in his own words, I want to be of loving service. I think his phrase was, my gift is from Jesus and I want to share with everyone. So I'm holding up my hands because he has just put about 60 small acupuncture needles in my hands, which I kept in for about 2 hours. I told him what was going on with me and he did that. So for a period of about 3 or 4 days, he was just helping out everybody. And of course, then he became part of the talk along the Camino. Hey, have you seen the Korean man? Because if something's bothering you or whatever, go and see him. So just another beautiful soul sharing his gifts. Next slide. A very powerful thing for me, raised in the Catholic tradition. Well, not to single out Catholics, I guess, but there are so many faiths where it seems that the people who are leading us are phoning it in, have sort of lost their passion, their desire to really share from the heart their message. And there were some very notable contradictions to that pattern when I was in Spain. This is Father Manuel. You can see him in the middle of the back. This beautiful man would combine us all in song. And so here we have 5 different companies, 5 different nationalities represented. He's got us all singing. You can see us all there holding lyric sheets. And he spent as much time having us connect in song and blessing us and hugging us after the service as the service itself. It was one of the highlights of the Camino for me by far. Next slide. And this is him giving me a blessing. And I felt it. I felt electricity go through me when he gave me that blessing. Sweet, sweet man. Next. These are the 3, I call them 3 musketeers, I guess. The 3 of the men that I got closest to. If everyone in our lives is a mirror of where we are, who reflect things back to us that we need to see, these 3 men, I'm close to tears every time I look at them. From left to right, this is Jorg. In the middle, Traugott. Traugott is a German name, which means trust in God. I love that. And Stefan on the right. Jorg, for me, is a personification of the warrior, a very open-hearted man. And Traugott in the middle is a minister. And so he was my spiritual connection. So Jorg was my heart connection. Traugott was my spiritual connection. And Stefan was for me, the embodiment of generosity. At one point on the Camino, I had lost my 2 power adapters. Can you see that? A conversion from 110 to 220. And I thought, gee, what am I going to do? And about 10 minutes after I realized that these were lost, Stefan said, well, you know, I have 2 of these. Please just take one. And not only that was the first small thing Stefan did for me. The other thing is, in this picture where we're standing, his daughter had been finding wonderful accommodations for us all the way along the Camino. So this is one of the places that we stayed, kind of a B&B, an Airbnb kind of thing. So I just love those guys to pieces, and I'm still in touch with all 3 of them. And when I grow up, I want to be just like Jorg. And so one of the things that I did as a way to kind of feel closer to him and just feel more in touch with my warrior was I got a tattoo exactly like his. So this is a picture of us showing off our tattoos towards the end of the Camino. Next slide. This is a very special place for me. My desire to come back to the slide about my guitar lele. There were several places along the Camino where I led sing-alongs. In this particular place, I had the great good fortune to sing in looking straight ahead is a chapel, and just to the left is another chapel. I sang in both of them. The one on the left had a slightly better sound. So I went in there one evening after dinner with my guitar lele, and I sang for about an hour. And I just let the sound of my voice fill the chapel, and people would come into the chapel and just quietly sit behind me and enjoy the sound that I was creating, and would come up to me for days afterwards telling me how much they loved that. This by far was the highlight of the Camino for me, feeling the openness of the road and the simplicity of just putting my pack on every day and experiencing this. Just walking through Spain was absolutely beautiful. Here's the end of the road. This is the square at Santiago de Compostela. And unfortunately for me, they're doing renovations inside, so I couldn't even go inside. So that sense of closure that I wanted on that last day, I didn't have, and I felt very sad about that. I also didn't have a SIM card, so I couldn't contact most of the people that I had connected with along the way. So there were many people I didn't get a chance to say goodbye to. Next slide, please. The real ending for me was to continue on to 2 small fishing villages past Santiago de Compostela. This is Muxia. Next slide. This is where I felt I was at the end of the Camino. This is why I live in Vancouver, is to be close to the ocean. So when I got to the ocean, I felt my whole body say, yes, you've completed your journey now. Next slide. So that was my first decision, was to walk the Camino. The second decision that I want to talk to you about this morning is, this is the Cruz de Ferro, the Iron Cross. And this is a mound. If you can look closely, everything that you see on that mound are rocks, stones, pebbles, various things, shoes that people have left behind, either in memory of people that they love, that they've lost, or something that people want to get rid of. And symbolizing of them getting rid of it is leaving it behind. So before I left the Camino, I got a rock from the beach in White Rock. And what I wanted to get rid of is all my feelings of lack, all my feelings of less than. So that's what I left behind at the Cruz de Ferro. And I had very strong waves of tears as about half an hour after I left the Iron Cross. So it definitely was planted. My desire was acknowledged and began to manifest almost immediately. Next slide, please. At the end of the journey, this is Fisterra. You can see the little marker there says 00. So I've completed my journey. Next slide, please. Behind the lighthouse that you saw on the last slide is this area. It was so windy where I was standing, I thought I was going to get blown away, but I decided to venture a little further. Next slide, please. And stand here. This is where people, right beside the cross is a little fire pit. And something that people don't do as much anymore for ecological reasons was to burn some of their clothing to symbolize things that they want to leave behind. I didn't do that, but it was so windy where I was standing, I literally thought I was going to take flight. I was wearing a poncho. And I thought the wind was going to carry me away, but I stood there in the wind and I put my arms out, and a deepening of the commitment that I made at Cruz de Ferro, I said over and over again, winds of Finisterre, wash me clean and make me whole. Next slide. I did the same thing the next day, also in Finisterre. This is a beach that I went to. I did the same thing, it was just as windy and rainy. I did the same thing, repeated the prayer over and over again. Next slide. Next slide. And I brought home some Camino shells, which are all over. That symbol is all over the Camino, and I have those here. So again, that desire, that second intention, that second decision to live more simply, to live more freely, that leads to my third decision, which is I want to go back to the Camino. I want to, what began on this trip, I now want to deepen. I want to make even stronger. And being the Virgo that I am, the way that I say it is I want to go back and do it right. I brought too much with me, and I think that's very symbolic. How many of us need to lighten our load? How many of us complicate things with worry, whatever? So, yeah, the power of decision. Basically, what I'm trying to get at here is that everything happens once we make a decision. And so now I want to share that quote that we all know so much, we've all heard so many times. Until one is committed, there is hesitancy, the chance to draw back, always ineffectiveness. Concerning all acts of initiative and creation, there is one elementary truth, the ignorance of which kills countless ideas and splendid plans. That the movement one definitely commits, the moment one definitely commits oneself, then providence moves too. All sorts of things occur to help one that would never otherwise have occurred. A whole stream of events issues from the decision, raising in one's favor all manner of unforeseen incidents, meetings, and material assistance which no man could have dreamed would have come his way. Whatever you can do or dream, you can begin it. Boldness has genius, power, and magic in it. Begin it now. So if I were to sum it up in one sentence, what I want to say to you is, whatever I know that every one of us has something important that they need to make a decision on, something they need to move on. My absolute assurance to you is that if you make that decision, everything that needs to happen for that decision to manifest will follow. And it will follow through a series of countless small decisions that will all make the big decision come true. And what I'd like you to ponder is, what is that decision? What is the decision that you're sitting on that you're afraid to make, whatever? And the words of encouragement I want to give you about that. Remember the game we used to play as kids, hot and cold, the variation on lost and found. Oh yeah, you're getting warmer, you're getting warmer. Oh no, you're freezing. Well, I think of Abraham Hicks and her whole thing about our emotional guidance system. When you know you're going in the right direction, it feels good. When you're not going in the right direction, it doesn't feel good. It is that simple. So I invite you all to tune in and listen to what that decision is. You know what that decision is. Your body knows what that decision is. Your heart knows what that decision is. Tune in, listen to that decision, and take action. And my offering to you is that if you want to have someone bear witness to your decision and perhaps help you remove some blocks about that decision, I would be happy to do that. You can contact me by email. You can ask any of the folks, the powers that be at White Rock, for my email address. I'd be happy to connect with you. So the very last thing I want to share with you is a song about all that, about jumping into the void, you know, before everything looks like it's all pretty and in place and trusting. It's called Jump Right In. We've done it before, and there's a little, whoops, there's a little part I want you to sing. It's call and response. So I sing, jump right in, you sing, jump right in. I sing, jump right in, you sing, jump right in. I'm realizing that got to keep moving here, so I'll just launch right into the song and trust that you'll get it when we get there. It's very simple. Sitting up here on my high horse, sure do like the view. Grass looks greener on the other side. Don't know what to do. If I keep all my options open, play it safe and wait, my whole life is gonna pass me by. Time to step up to the plate. I'm gonna have to jump right in. Gonna have to jump right in. Yes, I'm gonna jump right in to find out I can fly. Humpty Dumpty sat on a wall. Humpty Dumpty got a great call. All the king's horses and all the king's men couldn't put Humpty back together again. All he found where he landed was his shell and his clothes. His transformation was like total. Where did he get to? I suppose he went and jumped right in. Yes, he went and jumped right in. jump. Yes, he went and jumped right in to find out he could fly. Well, I'm scared to jump, but you know what they say. You got to feel the fear and do it anyway. I might fall and I might crack, but both feet are in and I'm not turning back. Cause even if I get busted, or maybe lose my shell, I'll be a better man for it, with some tales to tell. Once I decide to move forward, the universe will move too. And it's not what I do, it's how I do it that's gonna see me through. Yeah, I'm gonna jump right in. Yes, I'm gonna jump right in. You know I'm gonna jump right in to find out I can fly. And we're gonna sing it 4 times. I'm gonna jump right in. Yes, I'm gonna jump right in. You know I'm gonna jump right in. Yes, I'm gonna jump right in. You know I'm gonna jump right in to find out I can fly. Yeah, yeah.
Well, thank you, Nathen, for your heartfelt and inspiring message and for that celestial music. It's precisely what we need to hear at this time. We know you want to continue supporting your spiritual community through this time. And here's 3 ways to do it. Next slide, please, Angelica. First of all, you can make an e-transfer to unityWhiteRock@gmail.com. Secondly, we have a new app called Tithely that's been set up, but it's not actually working at this moment, but it will be by next week for sure. And you can download this link on our website and download it to your phone or to your computer. And hopefully by next week, it'll be working. And the third way is to mail your check to Unity White Rock, P.O. Box 375, 800 15355 24th Avenue in Surrey. So now I'm going to invite you to hold your offerings in your hands as we bless them together. We gratefully bless these gifts. Oh, divine love through me blesses and multiplies all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. I give joyfully and easily, for God is my source, and abundance is my nature. Amen. And now we will bless the actual offering. We gratefully bless these gifts, knowing that they support our mission to expand our consciousness and transform our lives to make a difference in the world. Amen. And now we'll hear Nathen sing, God is my source.
God is my source, God is my power, God gives me everything I need. So I give thanks for all my blessings, God gives me everything I need. God is my source, God is my power, God gives me everything I need. So I give thanks for all my blessings, God gives me everything I need. God gives me everything I need. God gives me everything I need. You're muted, Pixie.
I thought I had unmuted myself. Sorry about that. As we all know, Silent Unity is a prayer unity. Silent Unity is a prayer ministry that serves people of all faiths 24 hours a day and 7 days a week. Call Silent Unity about any need, day or night, and a loving friend will listen to you and pray with you in confidence and reverence. All you have to do is call 1-800-NOW-PRAY or 1-800-669-7729. Although our prayer box is not physically with us, the prayers in it are there. They are in the ethers, floating in the universe, and we are going to bless them. Mother, Father, God, Creator of all things, we thank you for being with us at all times, being in us at all times, guiding and directing us. And we thank you for bringing about the highest and best outcome for all these prayers written with love and in trust and placed with confidence in our prayer box. We know that the highest and best good will come from our prayers. And for this, we are so thankful. Amen. So next Sunday, April 4th, our guest speaker will be Eric Hellman and our guest musician, Carl Katz. We look forward to seeing you again online. And please stay with us on Zoom and join us for coffee and conversation after we finish singing our peace song and we say our prayer of protection.
Sing the peace song first and prayer protection after, I guess. All right, here we go. Let there be peace on earth and let it begin with me. Let there be peace on earth, the peace that was meant to be. With God as creator, spirit all are we. Let us walk with each other in perfect harmony. Let peace begin with me. Let this be the moment now. With every breath I take, let this be my joyous vow. To take each moment and live each moment in peace eternally. Let there be peace on earth and let it begin with me. You muted, Pixie.
The light of God surrounds us. I am the light of God. The love of God enfolds us.
I am the love of God.
The power of God protects us. I am the power of God. The presence of God watches over us.
Watches over us. I am the presence of God.
Wherever we
Wherever we are, God is.
and
all is well.